All right. Hi, guys. I am Zach with Verimlux Entertainment, and I am going to be interviewing Andrea Leslie today. Andrea is a wedding planner, designer with Andrea Leslie Weddings and Events. And she also has a background of a wedding coordinator, separate from her starting her own business. Welcome, Andrea, and tell us a little bit
Thank
about
you.
your journey through the wedding world.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I started at a venue. I worked at a venue doing coordination, all of the sales, and kind of the execution of all of the events there for about 3.5 years. And then I got into the world of rentals while I was gearing up to launch my business. And I've had my business for, it's been like 13 years. So
Awesome.
it's been really fun. I've gotten to wear a lot of different hats through working at the venue and experiencing a lot of different things in that capacity, and then understanding rentals, and now getting to be on this side helping couples as a planner
Cool.
and designer. So,
Love it.
yeah.
Love it. Um, uh, Keeping it light to start, what's like when you do so many weddings, what's like your favorite
Yeah.
moment over the years when you just like is like favorite moment of a wedding?
I think like getting to see the couple after the ceremony when like the vows are done, they've walked down the aisle, they've kind of had one of their bigger moments in the spotlight, which is generally not a super comfortable place for a lot of people to be. And
Mhm.
when they are together right after the ceremony and they're like, we're married. Like
Yeah.
that actually happened. Like it's
Yeah.
almost like they come to like the clouds lifted and they have this moment of clarity to be like, oh my gosh, like all this hard work and like all that buildup and, the emotions kind of
Awesome.
start to like settle enough for them to just be so present in it and be like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh. And now we just get to like celebrate with everybody. This is so
Right.
fun.
I love
So
it. I love it.
I think just seeing that like moment, like this light bulb of relief and clarity of like, oh my gosh, this is actually happening
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
probably one of my favorites because there's not
Cool.
very many people who also get to like be witness to that.
Yeah.
There's
Or they
very
don't
few
witness it
people.
enough to know that like
Hmm.
that's what that is. Like you've seen it so many times, you're
Right.
like, this is what they're experiencing right now. So it's super cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, there's so like I have so many favorite moments, but that's probably one of them.
Cool.
So,
I love that.
yeah.
Okay, great. Well, just to kind of like touch on what we're going to be talking about today is we really want to be helping newlyweds, or sorry, not newlyweds, newly engaged couples who
Hmm.
kind of maybe don't know where to start, or like they're starting to, doing their research, maybe finding vendors, planners, venues, but maybe they're doing it in the wrong order. Maybe they haven't created a budget, or really just having any idea how to find the right vendors and who to trust and what is the right order of this. And so, I wanted to come to an expert, you who've been doing this for 13 years, doing so many amazing weddings. I've gotten the privilege of working so many with you, and I see your couples who rave about you and their experience with you. So like, yeah, I just think that's so important of like your experience in it, and then your great reviews that you get from your couples, yeah, who say you're super organized and you have such great care for detail. So we have all these couples and they need to know where to start. So when you have your first consultation, or like where do couples start with you? How do you help them wrap their brains around what they're about to go through and give them an idea of a maybe a roadmap?
Yeah. Thank you, by the way, for those kind words. I think the biggest thing for us is that there are personal connections going through this process. So this is an experience of coming into it with like a heart and a care for people and the experience that they're going to have in working with their vendors. So we really try to lead with that in our initial conversation, which is a good chunk of the hour that we typically spend with people is devoted to just
Okay.
like hearing their story. Like, I just want to
Okay.
know about you. Like, what's your relationship been like? Like, how long have you been together? Where are your favorite date nights? What is your family like? Like, have you experienced a lot of weddings with like siblings or cousins or good friends of yours? Or is this kind of like the first experience you've ever had with that? That really is telling for us of, is this journey going to be one that's highly educational from our perspective, or is it going to be one where they kind of know the drill, but they are going to need a bit more guidance on things as it pertains to them personally and the decisions that they're making? So, those initial conversations for us are really driven in like layering in this like personal scope of the conversation and the picture so that it doesn't just feel, I never want it to feel transactional. I don't want it to feel like we're just like, oh yeah, we checked the box. We had the initial consult and we checked this box,
Totally.
you know. There
Right.
is that happening. There is definitely a process and a way of going about things that we've experienced to be successful. But the end result is obviously that the customer, that the clients and the couple feel really cared for and like taken care of in the conversation. So when we first start, say somebody has brought us on board, when we
Okay.
first start talking about like their wedding and what it looks like, it's really trying to get a deeper, better understanding of like, what are your priorities? What feels important to you? And sometimes the couple has different priorities. So we give them the floor
Mm,
to be like, what are your priorities and what are your priorities? Or what are your shared priorities? In that conversation, we're really able to better determine like, number one, are they aligned for us, right? If we have this conversation before they even book us. Is that if one of their top priorities is guest experience or people driven, we are very aligned to work together because that's how we prefer to approach things. So our clients, if they're voicing that one of their top priorities is the guest experience, majority of the time that ties back to food, beverage, or entertainment.
okay.
And so
Cool.
when they're like expressing to us, like, hey, we just really want this to be fun. And I'm like, okay, amazing. Tell me what does fun look like to you? Like, let's
Right.
talk about that. Like, what does fun
Right.
look like?
Right.
Is it like, oh my gosh, like my friend had this epic DJ? And then they start to tell stories. They start to expand on experiences that they've had in the past. And if they don't, then when we talk about those priorities, we ask them, okay, let's dig like a little bit deeper. Why are those things important to you? What
Hmm.
past experiences have you had that were really positive or things that kind of gave you the ick that like just didn't feel great as a guest or as a family member to the people getting married? Like what were those experiences like for you? So those are a lot of the like foundational conversations that we're having with people to just gain a better understanding. And I'm furiously taking notes and, my note taker and all of these like AI, the
Yes.
platforms now and everything. We've got
Right.
all of those for reference to really like pull some good nuggets out of
Okay.
that to then guide the conversations that we're having and like the recommendations we make from there. So,
Cool. Awesome. Love that. And your typical your first meeting is an hour and that's what you try to do
mhm.
and that's like a consultation to see if they want to move forward.
Yeah, so we have the hour-long consult before they book. We talk about their story. We talk about like what are you looking for from a planner? Like what vendors do you have your eye on? Like are there any people you're considering? What are your priorities? What are the things that feel important to you? And in that conversation, we're able to really tuck in there some comments, feedback, advice of, oh my gosh, that is an amazing band. I haven't actually worked with them at your venue before, but like they are very well versed at adapting to the spaces that they're in. Or I've worked with them at that venue multiple times and they're incredible. This DJ, unreal, can set up in all the different places that you're talking about. We've had them do that before.
Cool.
So we're able to give some feedback,
Cool.
more specifically to the little bits of information that they're giving us, which is great.
Great. Okay, so say they decide to move forward. Give
Yeah.
the example of like, okay, what comes next? Like clarifying those priorities. I mean, you've already
Yep.
gotten some ideas about what's important to them. Do they typically have a venue picked out yet, or sometimes do they not? And you're like, okay, yeah, we're gonna help you based on what you're looking for. We have some great venues. We need to get on that immediately. Like, what's the most important kind of like way you work coming into booking you.
Yeah. So once we are on board, we can be hired in two capacities. So we could be hired in a coordination capacity and we can be hired full service. So if we're hired in a coordination capacity, we have an onboarding call in either of those scenarios. And during that, we're diving deeper into the conversation that we've previously had. So we're talking in greater detail about those vendors, anybody that they have their eye on, have heard great things from a family or a friend. It's
Cool.
like, okay,
Cool.
let's dig deeper into that person. Let's
Right.
understand, like, why did your friend recommend them? Or why do you want to work with that DJ? Did you have a great experience? Or was it just like, I don't remember a ton about the reception, but it was like, there was a rager and they like
Yeah.
just had the best time. And I'm like, tell me about the open bar. No, I'm totally
Right.
kidding. But like, it gives us like, okay, like you may have liked that DJ and I'm going to recommend to you a couple of other people that fit that same kind of mold, that are in
Right.
that same vein, that really are going to give you an opportunity to explore some other people that you might not have been exposed to otherwise.
Totally.
And so our recommendations that come with coordination, they're still very much layered with a lot of different conversation and questions asked. But then we don't necessarily dive super deep into like the budgeting in that conversation.
Okay.
It's more or less like if they tell us like, "Hey, I'm kind of desiring to spend 2,000 to 5,000 on a DJ or whatever."
Mhm.
We're going to give them a pulse on like, that's pretty realistic in our market. Here's some good ideas for you. Whereas with full service, we dive more into the budget conversation and a bit deeper into vendor exploration conversation before we provide recommendations. So there's kind of two different paths. Like it's like a pick your path at the beginning before
Right.
they
Okay.
contract us. We understand
Got it.
like what capacity they want us in.
Got it.
But yeah, if a lot of people have met on like matchmaking sites. So I tell people like this is kind of a matchmaking process. Like
Totally.
we're
Swipe
not
left or
we're not
right on
ex-
me.
no, yeah. I mean, you're either you're swiping like one way or another, or like you've put in my desired person is, this age range and this gender and blah, blah, blah. Like you're giving it all of this feedback. We're kind of taking this same kind of layered approach to the conversation. It's like, okay, you want a DJ for sure. Do you want any type of live entertainment incorporated into that? Do we need sound for like multiple spaces? So there's like lots of conversation. Do you want somebody that's heavy on the mic? Do you want somebody who is incredible at mixing music?
Right.
Some people that's
Right.
not a priority to. Like they don't care at all. And so if we have DJ partners that like yourself, you're amazing at that. And I think that people will really like value that and appreciate some of those things. So that's kind of the background knowledge that we're coming into it with is
Cool.
an understanding of those vendors.
Great. Do you ever find where maybe people have like really big ideas and they're expensive ideas when it comes
Mhm.
to florals, decor, furniture, entertainment, where it makes you consider the venue you're choosing in order for them to be able to have, all of these things? Or is that something that you necessarily deal with? Or I guess how would you coach someone if they're like, well, we have really big ideas, but it doesn't necessarily our eyes are bigger than our budget type of ideas. Does that ever come up where you're like, okay, well, maybe let's choose this venue, which isn't going to, the food, we can save money in certain areas
Mhm.
with venue and food, and then still make this, wedding
Mhm.
with florals, decor, things like that. Do you ever come across that?
Yeah, and I think that there I didn't touch on your question like there's like probably less than a quarter of our couples come to us without a venue. So a majority of the time
Mm,
they come to us with a venue. So we're not
okay,
always a part of that conversation, but when we
got it.
are a part of the conversation, we really encourage people like we want to consider these spaces like apples to apples as much as we can, right? Like what type of inclusions are they offering and comparing that back to the priority list and understanding like you didn't list like food and beverage as one of your top priorities. So like this space doesn't shine, this particular venue doesn't shine as much in that area, but that actually provides you with the opportunity to put more into the entertainment, to put more into the decor, to the experience and the atmosphere that you're going to be creating and that we get to design. Whereas some venues takes such a large chunk of someone's budget that they're not necessarily able to get as creative in that space. So, if we have an opportunity to be influential in that decision, we definitely do compare things and kind of give them an assessment of like, here's where like this one, it really does have a lot more value adds because you're able to bring in XYZ and you
Right.
can save a bit more on the food and beverage requirements and things like that.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah.
I could also imagine if you're choosing a venue that is more expensive, part of
Mhm.
what you're getting out of it is you also don't have to do as much because hopefully that setting is elevated to,
Totally.
like what you're hoping to get. So I could see where you could come at it from different angles probably as a couple.
Yeah, and a more like some of the higher end like resorts and things like that. Some of them have incredible spaces to work within. Others,
Right.
you're having to like really transform them to
Totally.
have it be what you want. And so for a lot of our couples, like if they don't have a venue, we're like, let's whittle it down to like 3 or 4 top favorites. Because if you explore too many more than that, they all start to blur together.
Okay.
And then
Great.
when
That's
you
a great
have
tip.
that, it's like, are you trying to make this venue like, are you trying to make El Choro La Berge? Because it's not going to be La Berge, you know what I mean? Like, you're not going to be able to necessarily make it into this other venue. We can bring elements of
Right.
one venue to another, but like Royal Palms Mountain Shadows, like though if people were comparing those 2 things, then we have to dig a bit deeper on like, why do you like both of those? Like, tell
Right.
me about that because they're so wildly
So different.
different.
Right.
So then it becomes a conversation of like, what actually are you drawn to about each of those spaces? And maybe it's just outside. Like they just want to be
Right.
outside. It's like,
Yeah.
okay,
They can see the
great. Well
mountain.
then, right. Like I want mountain views. Okay, amazing. Like, well, we could include sanctuary in that. We could include, all these other
Right.
venues.
Right.
But it's really I think that a lot of times people don't understand that there's kind of like this layered conversation to that initial decision. They're just like, "Oh, I've heard good things and they had what I wanted and so we booked them, but I ultimately don't like any of the spaces that we're going to use and I want to recreate them." And it's like if we're able to be influential on the earlier stage of the conversation, then we can start directing the conversation and decision making in a more helpful way. So you're like really whittling it down to like, oh, well, then from the top 4, we boiled it down to the top 2 like pretty quickly. And then you're
Cool.
comparing things and understanding, yeah,
Okay.
what works
Great.
best. So,
Great. Yeah, I would imagine you help a lot with saying no to things with couples, like say,
mhm.
getting rid of things and making the list smaller for the decisions to be easier made, hopefully.
Yeah. And I think it comes back to experience, right? Like, what is this experience that you're wanting to create for people? And they're like, when we ask them, like, how would you describe this experience? Elevated, fun, intimate, like these different words cue us into, okay, if you want an intimate experience, we're probably not picking mountain shadows where your ceremony space is surrounded by general guest areas in the resort. You might be more aligned to be in like a Royal Palms Alaria Garden or, at the Four Seasons down on Ironwood Terrace. Like there's certain little like keywords that they're sharing with us that really start to like we're narrowing down that window pretty quickly. And then that also, ties into so many of the other vendors too.
Cool. Um, yeah, I'm gonna ask some questions that might like I have no idea about. So like
Okay.
say you have a couple coming and they're needing to talk to their venue, but and a lot of times what are those important questions when thinking about a venue and asking them what do they provide you? What comes with it? What do you have to pay for? What should you expect? Like you working with so many venues, are there important questions that you already know like, oh, they do this and they do this and they do this. Like, what are things to pay attention to as a couple looking to get married at a venue?
Yeah, so I think as a couple, if you're going into this conversation and you don't necessarily have someone like in our role to support you going into
Hmm.
that, if you do, then obviously you're going to kind of lean into your planner's expertise. But if you were to approach these conversations without somebody in your corner, I think that it's important to already have an established ideal budget. So, understanding kind of targeting where you might want to land, knowing that that could flex as you get further into the numbers. Understanding your guest list is a huge one because
Okay.
there are a lot of venues that if you have over 150 people, that narrows down the list of options for you to choose pretty significantly. There's not a lot of the resorts that can accommodate that well and very comfortably, right? So
Okay.
prior to the venue conversations, I think understanding how are we budgeting for this? Like what does that financial goal that we have look like? What does our guest list look like? What are some of the things that feel important to you? Do you want to host most things outside? Are we open to hosting certain things indoors? Because then as you start to explore those venues, you're understanding that. And then also layering in the conversation of weather backups. Like knock
Great.
on wood,
Okay.
all the wood.
Yeah.
Like we're so fortunate in Arizona that we have really great weather, but understanding if you do have inclement weather, having the venue provide you with here are the things that we've seen done in the past for ceremonies,
Perfect.
cocktail hours, dinners, dancing that have
Perfect.
had to be added into the conversation as we got closer and had clarity on weather. It helps tremendously to know that because if you don't have an indoor weather backup at a venue, you're having to do a tent, you're at 10,000 minimum for a tent. And so that immediately
Mm,
adds a layer to your budget at that particular venue that you might not have considered otherwise. So you might fall in love with this venue,
totally.
but then come to realize, okay, we're either sitting in the rain or I'm incurring
Right.
an additional $10,000 plus in
Totally.
cost I, wasn't
Totally.
expecting. So,
Totally. Yeah. I had my first wedding last week with the wind actually forced the ceremony and cocktail hour to be inside. So I never thought that the wind would do that. Usually it's like a rain problem, but again, it just shows that it happens, you know?
yeah.
So yeah, great question. Anything else? Like that's to me, all of that is gold, when like picking and you said a lot of couples have their venue picked out before they, like you said, I
Mhm.
think 75% of them might have their venue picked out
Yeah, I mean,
before.
there's for sure more than half of our couples come to us
Okay.
with and if they're not 100% decided on a venue, they're pretty close to having that decided.
Got it.
And, in addition to kind of first tier of questions, then it's a conversation of what are the food and beverage offerings?
Okay.
Does that align with the type of service that you're wanting to have at the wedding? What are their included items for tables, chairs, linens? If you're
Okay.
thinking that you want a DJ and you need to have a stage, is that something that's included or would you have to pay extra for that?
Right.
So thinking through some of those layered items that most venues that we work at include, but
Right.
some may not include all of those things. Like they might not have floor length linens, which in my opinion makes a big difference. And so
Right.
if a couple were considering a venue and that's something that's important to them, understanding, okay, then we're going to have to budget a separate line item to bring in linens. We're going to have to budget a separate line item to bring in chairs because we don't want folding chairs, which is what the venue includes. And, so thinking through what are the included offerings, how might my vision differ from that, and knowing that there's going to be extra line items that start to add up on that budget.
Okay.
And then one of the biggest things when people are starting with their venue is understanding food, beverage, venue, like that all in number with service fees, taxes, any fees that are going to get
Right.
added, bartender fees, flip fees for using a space for multiple purposes,
Okay.
knowing that that is around 45 to 50 of your overall budget
Okay.
really helps to give people a picture of number one, can I even consider this venue? Is that even in the realm of what we're looking to spend overall? Guest count is a huge influence on the final numbers. So
Okay.
if your heart is set on that venue and you're have to get married at Sanctuary or have to get married at one of these properties, if you need those numbers to come down, your guest count in most cases is going to influence your food and beverage, but then it influences the number of floral centerpieces you need, number of rentals
Mhm.
that you need, so there's all of
Right.
these other elements. So when we start to to have that conversation of comparing numbers. Some venues, you might have to reduce your guest count because of size. Others, you might be reducing it because you're like, gosh, that's going to make this one a possibility. And we really love it. So,
Right, okay. Got it. Okay,
yeah.
cool. Another thing that I was thinking of was some venues, it's mandatory that you use a planner, right?
Hmm.
And some venues, it's mandatory that you use their preferred vendor lists. Like for I know there's some venues where if I'm not a DJ on their list, I can't DJ there. So I
Right.
feel like those could be important questions to ask too, to make sure that you kind of know what you're getting into and
Yeah.
making sure that you have do you want to trust the venue completely to just like they're going to be providing you with everything, or would you like to have some say in it is another thing to be able to do. So,
Yeah. So I think, I mean, you're to your point, it's a distinction of like, is this a recommended list or is this a required list? Because those are like kind of two different approaches that venues will take. And if they're required, understanding a little bit better, like, okay, well, if I were to pick somebody off of this list, say none of those people are available, if I pick somebody off of this list, like what is the metric in which you use to determine if they're allowed here or if they're not allowed here? If you're required to work with a planner, then most of the time the planner is going to be the one having those conversations. So it's not going to necessarily be on the couple to dig into, why and how and what if I want to work
right,
with Zach and his team or something.
totally,
So, yeah, I think the distinction of like, is it required or is it recommended? Because both of those things, like people will kind of push it as if it's required, but ultimately it's just a strong recommendation for a lot of the categories of
right,
vendors.
totally. And they've worked. Would you agree that I mean they're just doing it because they've worked there before and
Yeah,
they trust the vendor because they have worked there before. So a lot of times like that's going to be the question is, well, they worked here before,
right.
and so yeah, which is just funny because eventually they might work there. All they need is that one opportunity, which is where I do think like finding out if with if vendors have a lot of relationships with people maybe the venue trusts and
Yeah.
can get like, say you really wanted a DJ to come in, but they're not on the list. Maybe seeing what DJs are on the list and
Hmm.
maybe the DJ you want knows those DJs and maybe those DJs can vouch for that other DJ. So
Yeah.
there might be ways around it. And but hopefully it's a venue with a good reputation with solid people. So yeah, let's talk on that a little bit with this like recommended vendors and
Yeah.
and maybe vendor fit like and I feel like a planner has a huge I've always said the first person people need to go to is a planner. I think they save so much time in having to shop around for the right venue,
Hmm.
because literally that's just like that's you build those relationships with venues, the layouts. I just feel like, your knowledge is widespread where me as a DJ, I pay attention to, where's the dance floor? Like how is the flow in the room?
Hmm.
Is it a weird layout? So it kind of like, there's like too many floors, at certain venues, there might be different levels to the actual like room to be in. And I'm like, oh, this is always a tough one. Like those are the ones that I think about, or the things that I think about where I feel like you have to really have an understanding about all aspects of a venue and how it might fit what people are looking for. So I always send them to planners first is my like always my recommendation. And then planners also because they have the big picture work with so many of the vendors and you can really have the ability to match the right vendors. So not necessarily the same vendors. It's not like you
Hmm.
have your own little posse that you're trying to like get work to every time. You truly care about your client's experience and like after talking with them and having these deep conversations with them that like this DJ or this live band is going to be a better fit because of what they've expressed. They go to EDM shows rather than, oh, we're a dive bar crowd, like
Yeah.
or country or whatever it might be, like those little details. And I feel like the planner, it's their job to put together the best team that can work together well and fits the bride and groom's vision. Would
Yeah,
you,
I think
like, talk on
I
that?
think the venue gives we always tell people, like, you've probably started and maybe you found us, like, as a planner through another vendor or through your venue, and they're
Right.
giving you a of 3 to 5, maybe even more than that, people in each category because it's people that they trust, and it puts you like, it gets you set off on the right foot. Like, you're starting to reach out to people who are trusted and respected in the industry and who are trusted and respected at that property, right? So that's, I think, an important, like, kind of mindset to take with those vendor referral lists is like, these are people that like they trust and they know
Totally.
will take great care of you. When you have a planner in your corner, you expand the viewpoint a little bit to be more inclusive of things that are aligned for that particular couple. So it's
Right.
not just this
Totally.
broad range of like, here's some great DJs and here's some great, beauty
Yes.
teams and here's some great photographers. It's like, if I know a couple, it really feels uncomfortable in front of a camera and they are like very gregarious and they're like super fun and like very lively,
Mhm.
but that just doesn't necessarily translate to how they're going to be photographed. And I'm thinking through like, who's also going to bring the vibe? Who's going to bring the fun atmosphere to those photos? And like taking those images and capturing them in
Right.
a way
Totally.
that feels connective. Who's going to bring that EDM energy to the dance floor that's how they met. Like they met at
Right.
a show for their most favorite DJ and they are like locked in on that.
Right.
Who's the DJ that's going to bring that vibe and that experience that feels connective to them, you know? And
Totally.
so the recommendations that we make are really layered from the conversations that we talked about previously. Like, what are some of these keywords? What are some of these things that they're bringing to us? And the venue puts us in a good position to provide feedback on maybe people they've started looking at online and to say, like, oh my gosh, yes, like Zach would be an amazing person for you to have a conversation with. Also, if you're thinking about live music, let's talk about this person too, because this person
Totally.
would be a perfect addition for like ceremony cocktail or whatever. And what it does for the couple, the venues list has already narrowed who they're exploring, but then we're taking it a step further to give them like, here's our top 2 to 3.
Right.
Usually, if people are trusting us, which is majority of the time, right? Like they have hardly any work that has to go into this venue
Totally.
exploration.
Totally.
Like the
Totally.
amount of time invested is hardly any because you're like,
Yes.
I trust this planner. I trust the person that's going to be my expert and in my
Yes.
corner. And you're not going to AI, like, because AI doesn't know all of this background information
Totally. Yeah.
about
Yeah.
what it is that you're looking to create. So if I know all of this
Yes.
background about how you met, who you are, what you're looking for from your day, I can tell you from our past experience of, decade plus in this industry, more so like that 20 plus years in the industry, I can tell you, oh my gosh, like that person would knock it out of the park for you. That's
Right.
my top for you, but I'm going to give you a couple of other people because I want you to have a conversation with them. Who are you going to get? I always tell people, get excited about who you're hiring to be a part of your wedding. Like,
Right.
feel
Yes.
connected to them. Are
Right.
are any of these people gonna do the job? Sure. But, like,
Yes.
are are you going to be excited that they're the one that's doing that job? Like, are you
Totally.
going to be excited when you walk into your reception and you see Zach behind the
Totally.
DJ booth? Are you gonna be
Right.
excited when you show up and, like Mary Claire's the one that's coming into your, room to photograph you because you had the
Yes.
best time doing your engagement pictures? Like,
Yes.
these people that we recommend, it's not just people who do a good job. It's people that have like a heart and a soul that they're bringing into this experience that are like,
Totally.
I would trust them with my own family members. Like they are people
Totally.
that like, if I get to be a part of the conversations with our couples, man, that's a gift and it's super fun to be a part of it. But I know with all my heart that if my couple just takes these conversations with the vendor, like if I'm sending somebody to you, I know I don't have to be there because I know you're going to take great care of them. And so
Right.
then they
Right.
get to determine like is the vibe there? Is the excitement
Right.
there that like
Totally.
this person coming into my day feels connected? Like this feels like
Yes.
a good fit?
Yes. Totally.
So
Love that.
very
I love
very
that.
long-winded answer, but
No, well, and I love that you say that like, you wanna be excited about them being at your wedding day, and
yeah.
I'm like, gosh, well, and I just think about that's why I really I dislike the idea of we provide all of your vendors for you,
Mhm.
because that's one of the things you lose. And I understand, like, that's just how it goes sometimes.
For sure.
But one of the things you lose is that all of us having the chance to get to know you and you to get to know us. And like, really, it is your day. And we're so excited to be there. And I think that's what like makes the magic. That's where it goes so much beyond of like, yeah, they did a good job, as opposed to
Mhm.
it being personal and intimate. And all of us, like, like, I know when I'm DJing a wedding with you, you're gonna swing by and ask me how I'm doing. Do I need anything? But
You're
it's
like,
just
you're
so
ready for the request so you can get your water or a piece of cake or something.
right, right. But I mean, it's so nice. There's one way of working weddings, and it's like not knowing anybody as a
Mhm.
vendor. We could not know anybody, and that's a really big difference for us to have like the kind of excited energy about being around people that we know, we trust, we
Yeah.
love. Like, I know you care about me, you know that I care about you, and like we want our work experience to be great, and we know that we're there for the clients. And so like there's just that magic there that isn't with everybody. And to me, like, that's what can really take a normal wedding to an amazing wedding. And people don't really know why, but it's just one of those things. But we know, because it's like we've created a dream team to work together, and it's adding, like, every one of us cares about the couple. And I just feel like that is one of those value things that is hard to measure. You don't know where it's coming from, but we know,
Yeah.
like, we all care about you, and we all want this day to be amazing, and we're gonna, like, fight through any negativity, and like we're gonna be like positive, and just focused on making the day great, no matter like what unexpected things happen. So
Yeah. And I think you have like what people don't understand is that like some vendors will be recommended because there's a benefit to the other vendor, right? There's kickbacks or whatever may exist in the industry and other relationships. But we're really transparent with people that like we genuinely are recommending these people because we truly believe your experience will be incredible. And to your point, when that is a collected team of vendors that have been recommended and we've all partnered together in the past or have maybe at some point crossed paths with one another, there is a camaraderie that happens in making that day the ultimate experience that it could be for our couple. And it might be you need me to hand a mic over to a dad while he's going to give his blessing so that you can have music playing up until that point. And so there's
totally.
like a teamwork that comes into it. The photographer is like, I need an extra set of hands on this dress. It's like, amazing, great. Let me carry the hanger, you carry the train. Like, we got this. Let's go hang it up where you want to photograph it.
Right,
The
right.
videographer's like, I didn't catch this. Could we like just do it one more time, but like not make them feel awkward about it? Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, you guys, that was so
Totally.
cute. Do it again. And so
Yeah.
there's these layers built in to the end result for our clients that if it's not somebody that we've worked with before, could it still be great? For sure. But I think that there's a different comfort level. And like you're talking about, the energy feels
Hmm.
different for
Right.
the clients.
Yeah.
And nobody can probably really put their finger on it
Right.
except for those of us that have that experience to be like, it just feels different. Like, it
Yeah.
just feels
We
like,
know that was amazing. Or like that.
yeah,
This is an amazing one.
yeah. And if there, I mean, and there's a lot of times that we say that, like, we get to the end and they're like, I mean, knocked it out of the park.
I
That
know.
was
I
so,
know.
no notes. Like, there's no notes. We have no
I know.
notes, and
No,
that's
yeah.
like,
It
I don't
is.
know.
You can
It's a
feel it
good
at the
feeling.
end.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
no, and I think that's a really good point I want to touch on, of the value you bring as a planner when trusted. It is that it's like, gosh, if you have the right client that does put they're like, okay, yeah, we've had these recommendations for Andrea. She really seems like she knows what she's doing, and she gets me. She understands our vision.
Hmm.
If they can be like, okay, yeah, like, we're gonna trust you with your recommendations, and you say you might give three, but like, start with this one.
Hmm.
Does it makes, if they're like, okay, yeah, she was right, great photographer, great DJ, I connected with them immediately, we love them, we're gonna go with them. That just like takes away, that makes that whole process go so much faster, and like
So much faster.
peace of mind in the planning process and throughout that time, I'm like, it's just so valuable. And so like I just think being able to trust your planner, if you can, I think find the right planner too that you feel
Mhm.
like you trust, it will remove so much of, the making decisions burnout that can happen over the planning period.
Yeah, the decision fatigue is real for couples at
Yeah.
so many different moments in the process. And I do feel like vendor exploration is a big one because there's such an influx of information. And
Mhm.
now a lot of people going to AI to be like, who are the best DJs or who are the best
Right.
planners in this area? And it's
Right.
like, you're going to get a list that's curated from all sorts of SEO online and all of these
Mhm.
different
Mhm.
things. But I think what we continue to tell people when we're having conversations now that like all of these resources are continuing to develop the way that they are is like
Mhm.
you have a person in your corner. Like you have a person that genuinely cares about the outcome of this and is going to
Right.
guide you in the right direction to have the people included and the puzzle pieces in place that are going to make it super successful. And it's not a one size fits all. I don't recommend the same team of vendors for every single wedding because every
Totally.
couple is not the same. What they want from their day is not the same. So when they share their priorities, when they share the things that feel like this is our most important thing, these are the things that feel connective. We are super honored to have the opportunity to be like, here are the people that you should trust. And
Totally.
if they have I mean, some couples have like friends that have gotten married and they say, "Oh my gosh, like my friend had a great experience with this photographer. Have you ever worked with them?" And if we haven't, then we also have a really big network of planners that we'll go to and say like, "Hey, I have a client who's really interested in this photographer. I've not worked with them before. Does anybody have good, bad, indifferent experience working with this person that they can
Right.
share with me? And I'd love to have a conversation with you because I don't feel good giving something my stamp of approval if I haven't had any type of exposure to them. Like I'm looking them
Totally.
up online and you and I have talked about this before, like content that's online about somebody. Like have they posted to Instagram or any type of social media within the past few months or are they kind of fallen
Mhm.
off the grid? That's not necessarily a
Right.
bad sign, but like just better understanding like what is their presence? Like how are they showing up? Are they actively pursuing weddings right now? Is that something that they,
Right.
have maybe taken a
Right.
little hiatus from? Like
Right.
there's different things like that, that just a solo just solely going off of a recommendation from a random person
Yeah.
or from an online source, it
Totally.
just puts you in a different category. So,
Totally. Totally. I mean, and yeah, we've both been in the industry, I think, long enough where it is one of those unique things where some people, I mean, there was a time where I just got started, right? And
totally.
I mean, maybe I had some good content, but like I didn't have enough experience
Yeah.
that would have put me like where I was doing weddings, 40 weddings a year personally. And you just never know where people are at and you want to get people's experiences. And that
Mhm.
during that time of my career, I wasn't charging as much, and I wasn't charging
Mhm.
as much for a reason
Right. Because you
because
didn't
I,
have the experience to back it, right?
right,
Like
totally,
those things are growing kind of for most people kind of at the same pace. Like as
right,
your experience grows, the investment in the services that you're providing also grows because
totally,
you are making it far easier for people. Like there's
totally,
not like the path at this point might have felt like a little bit squiggly and like we'd still get to the end result. But as
right,
you've refined your process and the business that you've built, the way that you help people and the platforms that you use to help get them to the wedding day is much more easy. Like there is like an
yes,
ease that comes with that
yes,
because you're not figuring it out as you go. It's not a
right,
test. They're not like a test subject. Like this is
right,
like
yes,
tried and true and like and
yeah,
again that's part of those recommendations is like I don't
right,
want your wedding being a trial for somebody. I don't want
totally.
this being
Have,
like
yeah.
hopefully it works out.
Right. Right.
Like
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've had mothers of the groom have a stroke during or a
mhm,
seizure during dancing, right? Like
yeah.
the longer we're in this, we see crazy things and it's like, okay, I know how to respond to like a traumatic thing now during a wedding.
Mhm.
Like all of it becomes education for us. And, I mean, my first wedding, I charged $300, and I pretty much like, I lost money on that wedding, like, But
Yeah.
that was
You I
but
mean, you
that
were basically, like, paying them to do the wedding.
yeah,
You were
yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Please,
Totally. Yeah,
like, I'll
exactly.
come."
Exactly,
Yeah,
and it was a friend, but so,
totally.
like so just understanding that the more experience you're getting is the value that you're starting to get becomes people's experience that gives you peace of mind knowing that, like,
Yeah.
hey, things at weddings usually don't go as planned.
Mhm.
There's always little things that in my experience, like, if it's, like, weather or something, like, weather is honestly, like, it's kind of a fun one for me because I feel like when you're talking to your grandkids, about your wedding day, like, that's what you're probably gonna talk to them about is, like, "It rained on our wedding day, and, like, this stuff happened, we had to, like, we were soaking wet," or something, like, I feel like those are the type of stories that will get retold is, like, actually things that went wrong, but, not not to say that everybody wants that.
No, I think that that's part of the conversation, right? Like, some clients wanna know, like, after we debrief after the wedding, they're like, "Okay, tell us what we didn't know. Like, tell us what happened," you
Yeah,
know? And
totally.
so then I've had some people that I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you know your cousin? Like, okay, that was, like, a whole 'nother thing," you know? And so then they're like,
Wow, yeah.
"No way, like, we had no idea." But, like,
Right,
for you and I, like, on the vendor team, we're oftentimes putting out those little fires, seeing all of those
right,
things go on, and
right.
the experience is like a duck, right? Like on the surface, everything's smooth, everything's great. We are all like fighting for our lives under the surface, and like, things might be like going awry. And that's like not the norm, obviously, but like
Right,
in inclement weather, like that is totally a thing where you're having to like figure out alternative like
right,
plans
right.
behind the scenes. But the guest experience is not one that feels chaotic or clustered. It's like one that's like,
Totally.
my gosh, those appetizers were amazing. Little did they know we were moving everything else to a completely different space that wasn't intended to be where the celebration was going to happen. But, like,
Totally.
again, to your
Right.
point, there's going to be people that are like just living for those moments of like, oh my gosh, that didn't go according to plan, but it was still everything that we wanted and it was so great.
Right.
And then
Right.
there's other people who have legitimately no idea that any of it happened. And then you
Right.
tell them after the fact and they're like, no way, I had no
Right.
clue, you know?
Totally.
So,
Or why did it
yeah.
feel so smooth? And it's because, like, we had flexibility with the timeline and we
Hmm.
knew we sensed, like, people were ready for the next thing, and so we moved forward with the next thing, like, sometimes
Yeah.
it's just it has to be real time and, like, we are able to read the crowd of, like, "Hey, they've been sitting for too long. It's time to move to the next thing," so
Yeah.
there's there's always a benefit of experience that, yeah, again, people don't know why it went well, but I feel like we know why it went well.
Mhm. And people can speculate oftentimes various things of like why it didn't go well, right? And
Right,
there are like many layers to that, but I think that smooth experience it translates not only to our couples, which are who we have the most experience with leading up to that day, but
right.
also the guests who are coming into this having no knowledge of what it was supposed to
Totally,
look like, be like.
totally.
They have no expectations really going into it other than maybe past experiences, and their experience is super smooth and super
Right,
comfortable and
right.
one of ease. So, yeah.
Cool, cool. Okay, cool. Say somebody, again, doesn't know a lot of, like, "Hey, my venue has a coordinator that, like,
Mhm.
why do I need a planner?" Can you explain from your understanding, what a lot of times, like, a venue coordinator and what they're going to provide for you? You also worked in that role. And then, the difference between a planner and what, that planner experience can give you and, your point of view of the difference between them.
Yeah, I think it was really valuable to work in a venue and understand like what that role looks like before launching my company and helping
Mhm.
people in a different capacity. The venue
Right.
coordinators are incredibly valuable to the
Totally.
process. Like so
Totally.
knowledgeable. They know how to get into places. They know the wheelchair access for people who have a difficult time accessing the cocktail hour in the same way that everybody else is going. They know
Right.
the ins and the outs of the venue, and they are such a huge resource to literally all of the vendors that are involved in making a wedding happen. So
Right.
that role is so crucial, but their focus is most oftentimes venue related. So the scope
Okay.
of their work and what they're focused on is primarily venue. Like they
Right.
want the client's experience and the guest experience to be wonderful, but they're really going to be like deep diving on like, is the venue set as contracted? Do we have all of the rentals that we promised that we were going to bring in? Was the venue ready to access? Are the restrooms ready? Like, are all of these different things in place for the rest of the vendors and the couple and the guests and everybody to come in and have a successful experience, right?
Okay.
So they're not
Okay.
only a resource leading up to the day, but then on the day of, they're really a strong foundation of things running smoothly on the venue side of things. Whereas a planner, a coordinator is coming in and they know the full picture. They don't
Right.
know just the foundation of the event, they know the entire picture of like, what does the timeline look like and the domino effect that every single one of those decisions that involves all the other vendors, all of that's culminating into this big giant timeline that's been put together, and it's been very thoughtfully layered to keep in mind the experience that the clients want. They're doing a first look, they're not doing a first look, we can't do grandparent photos beforehand because of XYZ, and so there's all these different things that are coming into play. The venue has no idea about any of that, nor do they really need to have a super big need for that. But
Right.
we're understanding a more like we have a more personal understanding of the experience, and
Right.
we can see the bigger picture.
Right.
And so we're understanding the layers that have gone into the decisions that have been made and helping to then navigate any plan Bs, plan Cs that have to exist throughout the day.
Totally.
If there's difficult personalities or certain things that we know, like, okay, grandpa might not be able to walk down the aisle. So if he can't walk down the aisle, he's going to enter from the side and we're going to pull him in from the side with this cousin. And there's all these different things based upon
Right.
the couple
Right.
that the venue coordinator is going to say, here's your venue. And everything is set exactly how you needed it, wanted it. Let us know if you need anything. Let us know if you've got any questions. And they check in, typically they'll
Sure.
check in periodically, but they're not necessarily there running point. And like we always tell people, we're that buffer between your
Yeah.
vendors essentially and you. So no one's asking you, hey, did you want the cake in this corner or in that corner? Or I was thinking I would set up a speaker over here. Are you gonna be okay with that? It's like none of
Totally.
that. The couple can just be blissed out of their mind and in all of
Right.
these moments and being super present because they have somebody that's kind of got their back. So it's just there's like a more personal layer that comes with a planner or a coordinator being involved because
Yeah.
they know all of those layers that have gone into
Right.
building
I
it.
like I feel like it would fall more on the planner's responsibility if maybe a vendor, got a flat tire and we
Mhm.
all of a sudden didn't have, I don't know, somebody was late or we weren't sure if we are going to have them. Maybe it was a caterer or something like that.
Yeah.
I feel like it falls more on the planner than it does a venue coordinator could be very hands off in that situation. I don't
Yeah.
is that right to assume?
Yeah, I mean, I would say for venues that include or like all inclusive, we're not typically involved in those scenarios. So in
Right.
that
Right.
scenario, your venue coordinator is probably a little bit more involved in kind of
Okay.
troubleshooting some of those things.
Okay.
But in like a lot of the resorts or country clubs, things like that we tend to frequent, they aren't as hands-on. And so like if you got a flat tire and you're running an hour late and I need to queue up a playlist on the house sound system at Mountain
Right.
Shadows or something,
Right.
you're never late because you always plan like hours in advance. So I don't
Right. No,
that's
yeah,
like
no, no,
literally
no.
never
Yeah,
happened,
totally.
right? But like if that were a situation, it's like, okay, I know the type of music that we're kind of like queuing up here. I can pull something together super fast on my phone, plug it in, and we'll have a solution in the interim,
Right.
or okay, let's troubleshoot this. I'm going to have you set this space first instead. And then we're like partnering and working
Right.
together to have a
Totally.
solution
Totally.
instead of it like falling down into the couple's hands where they're like, I don't know, we're trying to go take pictures right now. I don't know what to do
Yeah.
if you have a flat tire or if you're
Totally.
late or, like people who have
Right.
private estate weddings. Like things happen all the time. And if you don't have somebody that's there to like be the catcher of all the
Hey,
questions and
power went out. that's like
Yeah.
a private estates, like, it's always a thing like, "Hey, who lives here that knows where the
Uh-huh.
breaker switch is at?"
Right.
That's always a thing that happens at private events or at
Privacy
private
and
estates.
that and, like, restrooms, like, people are like, "Oh, yeah, we're gonna they'll just use the house restrooms." I'm like, "Are you on septic? Are you on sewer? Let's talk about this.
Right,
Like, do we need to bring in private restrooms?" Or like, "Oh my gosh, I never thought about that. Where are we gonna park
right.
all these people?" "Oh, I don't know.
Yes.
I'm sure my neighbors are fine with it." It's like, "No, they're probably not fine with it." So, let's, like, think through these
Cops
things,
showing
you know?
up. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Noise ordinances, all these
totally,
things that, you and I are so well versed with, but yeah.
totally.
Mhm.
No, okay, no, that's great. Yeah, I mean, let's see. I mean, what would be that like that more like personal experience that you feel like, because I do think that coordinators are like venue coordinators that comes with the venue. It's
Mhm.
like, you may have had a couple emails with them along the journey, asked them some questions
Yeah.
and got some things, but it's like, but a planner, I feel like is somebody that's really honestly, it's like an extended family at your wedding. I mean, I know that's the kind of service that your reputation has, is it becomes like it's very, like, trusted with intimate things. If problems come up, you've gotten to know the family, all of the details, right? And so, like, to me, there's, like, a huge difference between, coordinator who is there and can be a great coordinator and very supportive,
Totally.
but there's just, like, I would say, like, so much more value in an invested planner, and maybe not all planners are alike, but I do know that that's the kind of service that I see you give your clients.
Well, thank you. I think
Yeah,
yeah, everyone's approach is so different, right? Like for us, if our like most minimal layer of care, like we have unlimited communication via phone and email for an entire year up to the wedding, because I would
okay,
much rather you reach out to us with these random questions that might be keeping you up at night than going to chat and like sourcing, all sorts of information that might not be really applicable to your situation. Like I always tell people, I'm like, include your parents. If you have a good relationship and you want them to be involved, like bring them to our meetings. Like I want to meet them. I want to understand the family dynamics. I want to know these personalities, because not only are we gaining the trust of our couple, but we're gaining the trust of their most important people that also want to feel at ease on the wedding day. And if they
right,
don't trust who's like in charge of the experience, then it's almost like an uphill battle. Like we're constantly trying to like gain our footing for them to respect or appreciate the perspective that we're bringing to the table. But
yeah,
if they get to be included and they get to share their questions, share the things that are really important to them that maybe their kids didn't know to ask, it's like this
totally, totally,
this provides a completely different experience for everybody involved. Like
right,
it's and for us too, like I personally, like our team offers coordination. I shifted to only offering full service because I have a family. And if I'm going to be choosing to be away from my family, I want to be so connected and like in this experience and
yeah,
so invested in
right,
like what I'm creating for these people that have given us this incredible gift to be part of the experience with them. Like, I want to
yes,
be all in. Like, I want it to
right,
be so amazing. I want to know that, like, okay, grandma's favorite drink is Chardonnay. And so if she has Chardonnay, like, with her dinner, she's just going to be like over the moon. And like, like it's these little things that, like,
totally,
I have one couple who, like, her grandma, she went by Graham, and I, like, knew her through, like, multiple weddings with the family. And so, like, getting to go up and check on her during dinner and say, like, "Graham, how are you doing? Do you need more wine?" And she's like, "Honey, I'm great," and she just, like, felt so over the moon. And, like, for me, I knew that it was important to the bride and to the bride's mom that Graham was taken care of. And so it was, like, knowing that and
yes, totally,
understanding that, like, a 30-second interaction meant so much to these people that I deeply care about, and that, like, they just had peace of mind knowing that, like, Graham was taken care of. She had what she needed, and if she didn't, she knew who to ask. Like,
right,
there's the layer of that experience for us, that's, like, what sparks joy, is this
totally,
opportunity to
totally,
be so invested that those little things that seem really unimportant to
mm,
many people are so
right.
impactful on like the big experience. And
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, totally. Well, and we're gonna wrap this up, but that brings the idea of, like, to me that all planners aren't alike, and just like
Sure.
all DJs aren't alike. When, couples out there, when you are trying to find those vendors, if those things matter to you, those are the kind of questions you can ask is like, what do you care about as a vendor? So like whereas if you're hearing Andrea talk about what she cares about, it's like it's relationship, right? It's like
Mhm.
being able to connect with you and your family and go like surprise you above and beyond with care and class and and it's and there might be there might be, why is this person more expensive than that person, like
Mhm.
as you shop around. And these are the kind of things that like I would say make people like Andrea more valuable, and like again, it's not a you might not get you might not understand like the dollar sign of it, but like that's where like true value comes from is like, oh my gosh, like she really cares about us, like you're going to
Mhm.
want her around on your wedding day because like you've connected with her and she's like 100% all in and bought into like making this the best day of your life. And then that's where value comes from, right? And so, like, to me as well, like, it's important for me to feel connected with my
Mhm.
clients. I don't want you to feel like I'm a stranger at your wedding, but I am there celebrating. That actually, I'm genuinely joyful to be celebrating with you. Like, there's no fake stuff. Like, that's what we want. That's what makes us excited to do our jobs. And I would say, like, that's what makes us more valuable too, like being able to like we truly want that. So, okay, well, awesome, Andrea. You're amazing. Thank you for all of this
Thank
gold
you.
information.
Yeah, I'm so glad we could chat.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so if people want to get a hold of you, maybe they want to ask more questions, or maybe
Yeah.
they want to like schedule a consultation with you. Is it free to do an hour consultation with
Yeah,
you? Like,
for sure. Yep. So we can have a conversation, talk about our services,
cool,
deeper dive into vendors you're looking, to have involved
great,
in your wedding and how we have worked with them in the past, feedback we have.
cool.
So we prefer inquiries over the website. We do take them online and I usually just send them directly to our contact page. So
Okay,
andrewleslieweddings.com. But you can
perfect.
find us on Instagram as well at Andrea Leslie Weddings. So
Perfect. Awesome. And I've done this personally. I've sent friends to you.
you're so
you know, I
sweet.
s- I send a whole list of planners, and I was like, hey, just look into them and see if I'm like, you don't have to pay for them right away, but just
Sure.
like you would interview a DJ, like it's really it's just like, is it worth meeting with the DJ and like trying to understand what they can provide for us and how they can make our lives easier on the day of our wedding and planning up to that point. So, but to me, I'm always really encouraging because I think people get surprised. I mean, one of my good friends, he was a roommate of mine, was super surprised about how affordable it was to have a planner. And I knew my roommate so well and I knew his fiance. And I'm like, I know you guys need a planner. Like, you guys are going to be waiting till the last minute to make all these decisions. So if that's you and you're sitting on the fence, just like, just have a consultation. Like, there's going to
Hmm.
be so much you can gain from speaking to somebody about your particular situation and what you're expecting or what you're hoping for in that. Yeah, once again, Andrea Leslie Weddings. Go to her website, fill out a form. They're going to contact you. You guys can set up a consultation. I'm Zach with Verum Entertainment. If you need a DJ or photo booth at your wedding, we are the person you can check out as well. So hit us up at verumlux.com and you can fill out an information form there. Thanks again, Andrea. And we're going to have to do this soon and maybe
Yes.
officially for a podcast next time.
Okay. Sounds good. I'm in. Thank you so much for
Okay.
having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Bye.